I've created the aging report, and I have a good idea about what things are outstanding as of any of these periods of time. The other thing that I can do is I can create, or I can do this offline if I want, or I can try to do it here. Is I can potentially create another variable that accumulates what my total estimated non-collection of these amounts are going to be. So let's think about how to do that. So I've got my total dollars, and this is another logic issue, right? So the question is, how much of this 65,916 is going to be uncollectible, right? So this is determining the uncollectible portion. That's what we want to try to find out. So that's the question is, how much of my outstanding accounts receivable are uncollectible? The variables I have is, well, I've got my aging report, and I'm hoping I've got other variables, or maybe I've got other experience about what is the percentages that become ultimately uncollectible in these three buckets. So the data that I have is the aging report and some other stuff that I don't have on, in Tableau or any data. What do I think is the percentages in each one of those buckets? And then given that, let's calculate what is the total amount that I expect to be uncollectible. And let's communicate that. So we're going to do this piece outside of Tableau. We're going to write down what we had for our ending balances here, and so we'll refresh what that looks like. So in the 0 to 30, I'm going to write these down, and we'll come back to the piece of paper. In the 0 to 30, I had 31,907,660. In the 31 to 60, I have 25,084,035. And in the 61 to 90, I have 8,925,071. So those are my outstandings. And all I've done is I've just written them right here. And we have nothing in the greater than 90. So you can go back and take a look as an organization. Well, when things are in the 0 to 30, what's the likelihood that they're going to become uncollectible? 31 to 60, 61 to 90. And you would expect that this would be a smaller percentage, this would be larger, and this would be larger still. So this is our historical rates for uncollectability. Okay, and in the 0 to 30, I'm going to come up with these are random, right? I don't have data to support any of this stuff, but I would hopefully in an organization have data to support each of these. So in the 0 to 30, we're going to say that 0.50% is ultimately deemed uncollectible. And the 31 to 60, it is deemed that 1.4% is deemed uncollectible. And the 61 to 90, 2.2% is deemed uncollectible. All right? So what this tells us is, based on my historical understanding, that I should at least have some kind of reserve against this total amount, this total 65,000,009, that is anticipating future potential write-offs of these amounts. So all we've got to do is do some math here and multiply these through. So we're going to take our 31,907,660 times 0.5%. That's 159,538. In the 31 to 60, we got 25,084,035 times 1.4%. That comes up to 351,176. And then in the 61 to 90, we've got 8,925,071 times 2.2%, and that comes out to 196,351. Okay. Again, I just made these percentages up. Your organization should be theoretically tracking this. So the total amount in my estimate, and this is an estimate. I want to make sure you understand. This is all an estimate. Could be higher, could be lower. We don't know, right? It's just an estimate. It's a judgment call. We take the accumulation of these three, and that should tell us what our overall allowance for our expected uncollectability of accounts is going to be. And that's 707,065. That's what we think our allowance should be. So how do we book that in our financial statements? Well, if we had 0 previously, and this is the first time we're booking this, this is what it's going to look like. We're going to put our little assets here equals liabilities plus equity. And what's going to happen here is our asset is going to go down by this amount, right? Because we have to, basically we've got 65 million 9. Of that, we don't believe that we're going to have 707,065 collected. So the net realizable value needs to be that 916,765, which is the sum of these three amounts, minus 707,065. So our net realizable value should be 65,209,700. Okay, that's what it should be. So this is what my accounts receivable net should be on my balance sheet. So I'm going to end up having this new account called the allowance. Okay, and that is going to make my assets go down by 707,065. Assets go down by 707,065. Nothing's happening with liabilities. And what's going to happen is I'm going to have bad debt expense of 707,065, and that's going to make expenses make equity go down. So my assets equal my liabilities plus equity. So we're going to have an allowance account that's going to reduce assets, and we're going to have a bad debt expense that's going to reduce equity. And so if next year I go in and do this calculation, whatever the difference between the 707,065 will change the allowance account and will also change bad debt expense.